Hi, so I'm Charlotte, and we are going to be listening to Miriame, and she grew up in France, which I'm very interested to learn more about. Is a human rights activist. She has a background in international economics, and she has co-founded Speaking Justice, which is something that we is pretty much a very potent topic right now. It'll be an interesting conversation to hear her speak about social emotional learning. So I am excited to listen. So, Miriam?
Thank you, Charla. Thank you, everyone, for joining and for inviting me to speak today. So, yes, my name is Miriam Sherbib. I'm an educator and the founder of Speaking Justice. As Charla said, I grew up in France. I am French, Tunisian, and American. I grew up in a community of human rights activists. Um, and um, and I'm the creator of the 5 Habits of Speaking Justice. And so that's why I'm here today, is to present to you the 5 Habits of Speaking Justice. But before I do that, I find it pretty helpful to first talk about what brought me to create the 5 Habits of Speaking Justice. And so to do that, I need to go to the what I call the 3 foundations of the 5 habits. And actually, if I may, I don't know if I have the right, but can I share my screen? Yes, I see I can do that. Perfect. Let's do this. Wonderful. Here we go. Maybe like this. Take some time. Yes, here we are. Wonderful. So as I told you, there's 3 foundations to the 5 habits of speaking justice. And the first one comes from my background in France. So I told you I grew up in a community of human rights activists, and probably led me to be completely obsessed with the history of World War II when I was in high school in France, and especially with the history of the French heroes of World War II, who were the members of the French resistance. And something I learned back then is that even if France is considered a winner in World War II, the members of the French resistance only represented 2 to 3% of the French population. And so when I learned that in high school, it was a shock. And it brought me to this question that I have on the screen right now, a deep, essential question for me. And that question was, would I have been on the right side of history? And if this happens again, would I be in the very, very, very tiny minority, 2 to 3%, or would I be on the other side? And it was kind of a trigger for anxiety for me, because I thought that we were born with the ability to use our voice in a way that was aligned with our values or not. And so I was kind of scared to wake up one day and realize that I didn't have this ability. It wasn't in my personality. And even if I had human rights activists, my dad is a human rights activist, I kind of felt that I wasn't like my dad, and so I was kind of shy. I did everything I could to please my teachers and please people around me, and so it kind of gave me some anxiety of like, I thought, oh, this is the proof that I am not like my dad. I'm not like one of these heroes of World War II. Maybe if something like this happens again, I'm not going to be able to use my voice because it's just not my personality. So that was when I grew up in France. And obviously that question stayed with me for many years. But 10 years after that, I moved to the US. And so that's the second foundation for the 5 habits. And when I moved to the US, I was engaged in a PhD program back then that I stopped when I moved here, and I decided to become a teacher, French language teacher. And I found this amazing little school that maybe some of you know, 5 Acre School in Squim. And 5 Acre School specializes in something called social emotional learning. And so that's kind of that is the second foundation here. It's the discovery of social emotional learning and of the concept of best self. And so at 5 Acre, I learn about social emotional learning, which is defined as the learning process of fundamental skills that help us understand and manage our emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. And social emotional learning is a vital step towards becoming our best self. And I define the best self as the version of ourselves that has the maximum positive impact on our own life and on the lives of people around us. And so I often say that to be our best self is to reach our full and unique potential. And so I don't see it very much as a destination. It's more a path. We are on a path of becoming our best selves. If we aspire, if we practice every day these social emotional skills that unlock this potential. And so you see that here with this discovery of social emotional learning and of best self, it was at the total opposite of what I was thinking when I was a teenager, because suddenly I was in charge of teaching students how to become their best selves, knowing that they were not their best selves yet. So they were not born being their best selves. They had to learn some social emotional skills. And me too. And so I realized, oh, wait, I'm not born just finished. I can be the person I want to be. So if the person I want to be has the same characteristic than one of my heroes of the World War II of the French Resistance, well, I can learn to be that person. I have to learn specific social emotional skills to become this person that I want to be. So that's the second foundation. And the third one happened last year with the murder of George Floyd. After the murder of George Floyd, obviously at school, there was a lot of debates, a lot of questioning, a lot of shock, a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain. And my coworkers and my community members were kind of wondering if they were doing enough in their communities. And if we were doing enough with our students. And so I kind of volunteered during the summer to write some kind of report to assess what we were doing at school, and if we were doing enough, and what else we needed to do. And basically with this essential question, which was, what are the fundamental social emotional skills we all need to use our voice in difficult situations? Because at school, I was, as the French teacher, as the foreign language teacher, I see myself teaching French language, but also Francophone cultures. I also had as goals to make students know and discover about other cultures, have a little bit more of knowledge of diversity, and know, obviously, because I'm French, about the history of colonialism. But what happened after the murder of George Floyd made us realize that we needed to teach fundamental social emotional skills. And those social emotional skills, a lot of us did not have. And one of the ways we did not have these social emotional skills was using our voice. We were not sure how to use our voice. And so that's how I created, as I was writing this report, I created the 5 habits of speaking justice that I'm going to present to you right now. Oh, I'm sorry. My daughter is coming in. Just wait a I'm so sorry. Obviously, it had to happen. But it's perfect because we were just starting the 5 habits. So habit 1 is called growing, controlling our voice. And so basically this one is about learning to identify our needs and feelings and advocate for our needs in a way that is going to help us meet our goals and our needs. That's the first one. The second one, just the second one, is called holding space for other voices. And so this one is about looking at people around us or people we're talking to and making sure that we are making space for them to tell us about their needs, or making sure we are listening. We're really listening. Some people call that deep listening, empathetic listening. So it's active, deep listening. The third habit is called self-reflecting on the power of our voice. And so this is about identities. This is about looking at our everyday interactions through the lens of power dynamic and identities. Who are we in this conversation? I know that when I'm talking to my husband, I don't hold the same power than when I'm talking to my daughter, for example. Or when I'm talking to my students, for example. And so it's highlighting being aware of how much power we hold in a situation and how much power other people who are talking with us are holding in an interaction. That's something that as a person of color and as a woman, I've done naturally my whole life. Habit 4, including the unheard voices. And so habit 4 is sometimes confused with habit 2. Habit 2 is we look just around us, who is around us, who are we talking to, and making sure we make space for that person to share. Habit 4 is actually going beyond our circle, our social circle. And it's extremely important, especially in this time of social media bubbles, where we tend to stay very much isolated from each other's. This habit is about really practicing looking for voices that we don't hear in our everyday lives. As my mentor at school, I see you, Charla, just wait a second. As my mentor at school usually asks our students when we read a story, he always says, whose voice, whose point of view is not represented here? So it's asking this question in our everyday life. Charla, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just had a question. When you're talking about habit number 4, I'm interpreting that definition as like those who wouldn't necessarily have their own voice, like advocating for the homeless or seniors or somebody who's abused or children, that kind of thing. Is that what you're referring to?
It can be, yes, it can totally be that. It would be, when we look at habit 2 versus habit 4, if you were talking to someone who is homeless, that would be habit 2. You want to hold space. But if you are in the room with other providers or whatever, and that person is not represented there, that's when it's habit 4.
Okay.
The habit 2 is like you are with the person and you want to make space for that person's voice. Habit 4 is this person is not here.
You want their voice to be heard.
Exactly. How do we carry that voice there? Okay. How do we make sure that we get the whole picture here?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And finally, habit 5 in my in this on the screen, it's called Using Our Voice for Justice, but the full title is actually Knowing How Best Each of Us Can Use Our Voice for Justice. And so that this habit is more about ourselves. It's more about learning what I call our superpowers. We all have natural gifts, natural way we are in the world that have that make us have an impact on other people's lives. And so habit 5 is like, what is it? What is your superpower? Some people have humor. They know exactly how to use humor. Some people are very good at writing. Some people, like my dad, are very good at demonstrating and opposing things. And there's space for everyone. So knowing how best we can use our voice for justice. Those are the 5 habits. And by the way, I call them habits and not skills, because the idea, the fundamental belief behind the 5 habits is that those are skills we need to practice every day in different settings, in different areas of our lives. It's not just social justice, not just work. I use them with my students, obviously. I also use them with my husband, with my daughter, with my friends. And by practicing them, because I'm not good at all of them, actually I'm pretty bad at habit 1. So by practicing them every day in kind of minor situations, my hope is that when I will need them at some point for something bigger, something more important, they will come automatically to me. So and that's also what I'm doing with my students. That's also what I'm doing in my workshops with my workshops participants. We practice these 5 habits in many different ways in order to make sure that when we need them in difficult situations, we can use them. And so what are these difficult situations? There's just so many of them. I didn't address that yet. So what are they? Because when I created this, it's like, okay, I'm going to prepare my students for that. And there's a lot about the voice here in the 5 habits, because for me, the voice represents our power. It's a metaphor for our power. And so but for my students, it makes sense that it would be applied to kind of general to every single thing, an interaction with another student, interaction with a teacher. But what happened is that after I created these 5 habits, I conducted a series of interviews. And I interviewed a lot of people, not just local, but many local people, parents, younger people, older, grandparents, teachers, community leaders. And I asked them what the 5 habits could do for them, how they would like the 5 habits to support them. And I was kind of overwhelmed to realize that 90%, I think, of them told me that one way they could use the 5 habits is during conversations on topics, on issues that they found difficult to talk about. And obviously the first one they told me about is racism is really a difficult topic to address. But not just that, some told me about vaccination, some told me about debates in the community around the MAT clinic. Some told me about climate change. Name it. There's so many different topics, and so it became my focus. Right now is to support people, professionals, but also regular community members learn to engage in conversations on what they call difficult topics, but that I called compelling issues. I call them compelling issues because they are not difficult by nature. It's just that we have no practice. We don't know how to engage in these conversations, and we lack knowledge, tools, and practice for these conversations. But we all want to have them. That's why they create passion. That's why some people have arguments when they start talking about these issues, is because we really care. We care about our community. We care about our planet. We care about our values, our religion, and so that's what I've been doing these last few months. I think I'm going to stop here because I don't know how much time we have left, and I want to hear if you have comments and questions for me.
Miriam, if you have more to your presentation, you can go for another 10 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I had actually just questions for you. I can also present to you, maybe I can present to you quickly. Let me see this. What we do, those are my questions. What we do right now in SQUIM. So Speaking Justice has workshops. We have a workshop coming up Saturday, May 15th. And it's small group. We keep it extremely small. It's maybe a dozen of people max. And we practice having these conversations in a way that is empathetic but impactful. That's what we want, because people tell me how they feel terrible when they avoid having these conversations, and they feel they should have these conversations. But they also tell me that when they try to have these conversations, they feel awful when it ends up being an argument, and they can hurt relationships pretty badly by doing that, especially when it's a coworker, or when it's a client, or when it's a neighbor, right? People you're going to have more interactions with. And another thing we do right now is I'm finishing building this online course. It looks a little bit like our workshop, but it's pre-recorded videos that people can watch in their own path, own timing. And so it consists in a deep dive into the 5 habits method applied to having these compelling conversations. And we also offer an access to what I call my community, Speaking Justice community practice, which are interactive practice sessions where people can come with their own scenarios. Some people come and tell me, oh, I had this conversation with one of my clients and it was awful and I didn't know what to say. Can we workshop this conversation together? And so we all look at the 5 habit method, and with that, we support each other in these conversations. And so that's what I have in the last line, the Speaking Justice community practice. It's an hour monthly practice session. I really want to encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter. It's free, and there's a ton of information bi-weekly newsletter where we provide tips, advice, information, resources on everything related to speaking justice, everything related to social emotional learning on these topics, neuroscience, latest neuroscience research, or social science research on these topics, etc. And that's all for my presentation. Then I have a more interactive part for you, but I don't know if everyone is eating. That might not be the right time for that. But I was kind of curious to know, I'm almost curious to know, what is one issue you see in your community that you feel compelled to do something about or use your voice about? It's so different for many people. And I bet that in your sector, it would be also quite particular. So if anyone wants to jump on this, I'm happy to hear you, even if you're eating, it's okay.
Hi, this is Mary. And coming from what I do, with the community, with Compass and Clock, I feel one issue that I come up against is denial, that people need the information that will help benefit them to enjoy their journey, and that opening your minds to just have access to information and equip yourself, and just that I find that a challenge. And when somebody says, "Oh, I don't need this," and I'm at a loss for words. And I would love to ask them, why do you think, but somebody will say like, "No, I don't need that magazine," or it's just, to me, it's an awkward moment. And I feel like what I'm doing though is so powerful to help people empower themselves, and I'm just saying, take the information, do what you want with it. I'm not telling you have to do something. I'm just saying it's available to you, because you might want to just start looking into it now, browsing through it. Because if you do want to grow old with your loved ones, there's going to be some challenges, and you're going to need to know some information about how to do it safely and successfully.
Yeah.
So I find that there are people that are just, closed to the idea of it.
Sure. I think denial is such a strong feeling, right? And it doesn't allow us to be able to see clearly what's good for us. And it's almost like it's just the brain freezes. It's impossible to go there. But I wonder, are you able, Mary, to have conversations with them and learn more about them, and maybe what could explain that denial? Are you able to ask questions?
Sometimes I can, but that's not usually the case. I mean, right now it's been difficult for the last, 12 months or so, because we're not able to really be out there one-on-one, or having a seminar like this in person with an audience where they can, and actually it's here you are speaking with us today, sharing some wonderful information. Through Compass and Clock, I do the same thing. I do a monthly Compass Points where people can come and learn something of value and interact with the presenter. And I do that, and there's not a lot of people that attend. And so I'm having a struggle with even being able to connect with people to have the conversation. But when we were doing things in person, there was a lot of, I don't need that.
Yeah. But I would bet that it's easier when you're in person to connect, because the 5 habit method implies connection, obviously, and I'm sure all of you know that connection is the most important in these conversations, because there's fear. There are many of these feelings that bring us to say, "Oh, we don't care about this," or "We don't want to hear about this." So it must be so difficult right now to do it from far away. I really feel for you. It's hard.
I would think that Charlotte probably has the same issue. People are afraid of hospice, of the word hospice, but yet they really don't know what hospice is and what it provides. But they think of the word hospice connected with death, and they don't think of it connected with compassion and dignity and comfort. Charlotte, am I speaking out of turn for you?
No, you're exactly right. I mean, they just hear that word hospice and it doesn't apply to me. And then my role is to try to help them see the value in our service and what we can provide. And it's an everyday challenge.
Yes.
I do. But I do have one question, and I think it's a personal issue, and I believe it pertains to habit 1. And I feel like I'm among friends here, so I'm going to reveal something personal. But like if I have that difficult conversation with somebody at work, or it's uncomfortable for me, is there practices that you can recommend to not cry?
Oh, yes, you're not a police person.
Because I feel like once you start crying, then it becomes, oh, you're a woman, you're going to cry. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, if I'm with a family and patient, that's different because it's a whole different situation. We're all crying. But Yeah, that having those kind of difficult conversations in the workplace and having that emotion come out is makes it even more uncomfortable.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's also a power. Let's see it as a superpower. What about it's a superpower and you use it at your advantage? I know people feel extremely uncomfortable when someone starts crying,
Yeah.
but you can use it at your advantage in a conversation, a difficult conversation. Because honestly, I don't it's a biological thing. Crying.
Yeah, it is, but it then, my affect once I start crying goes up, and then I start,
So the emotions around like that come up, that yes, definitely lots of techniques. um you know um we have a whole section on overcoming triggers, and so that would go there definitely.
okay.
But I cannot guarantee that I'm going to be able to control your tears.
Right.
But
No.
the emotion, definitely. And there's a cycle too. So by controlling the emotions, you're also going to reduce your tears, but maybe not to zero. uh,
Right.
so yes, there are things I can send you, like nonviolent communication is a great resource to look at when it comes to understanding a little bit more our feelings. So what's happening here
Yeah.
when when suddenly I'm starting to cry. But we also have in our workshop a whole section on triggers. We have activities on triggers, and on a toolkit, a personalized toolkit for us, because it's so different. We all react differently.
Sure.
Uh, when I'm uncomfortable, I start laughing, which is awful. It is awful when someone is upset and I laugh, and it's just discomfort. It is pure discomfort. And so learning to move through that, and maybe again, I'm not going to reduce my laughter at zero, but I'm going to work on the discomfort, and I'm going to be able to overcome that quickly, or at least quicker.
Yeah.
Is a practice. That's definitely practice. So there's like a few tools, and there's a lot of practice.
Okay.
um, what I find, there's someone else actually who told me that once, and
Oh,
she's like, and I'm so good now. I like I can control my emotions, but I just cry. And she's in kind of a leading position. It's like very uncomfortable when
yeah.
in a meeting, especially with a lot of men. I start crying, um, and they all feel like, oh, what is happening? And they cannot focus on the conversation, right? So it's like, how can we have whatever is happening with us, but keep the conversation on track? That's
Yeah.
what we want. And so keep them on track and keep ourselves on track. So the physical thing, you may reduce it. Maybe it will not, maybe it will disappear, maybe not, we don't know. Whatever is happening physically, we accept it, but emotionally we can calm ourselves down and get enough like grip on the conversation to keep rolling. That's what we want. And
Yeah.
that again takes people, like that's why I have these community practice calls, because then people can cry, then people can get upset, but in a safe environment where we're all like, we're with you, we get
Yeah.
it. And we do a lot of role playing, so we trigger each other. That's kind of the game, but in a nice, always in a nice way. And by practicing that, people get better at least being able to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
That's important.
Yeah, I'll sign up for something.
Janet, did you have a question?
No, not so much a question, just an observation and on the what we sometimes perceive as our own inappropriate reactions, or reactions we'd prefer to actually not show up when we're not calling them. And the crying thing happens to me too. It's usually a memory, like she said, triggered from something else that you can, if you can turn it around towards yourself and let them realize that you're not crying because of them, you're crying because of something inside yourself. Make it about you. The same thing with the laughter. I mean, God knows, I've probably done that myself once or twice, and sitting there and making myself the brunt of it, that this is because, I'm sorry this came up, but this is how I react sometimes when I'm nervous, and I'm sorry about that. And that gives you a chance to kind of slow it down and make it less uncomfortable. What are we going to do about this laughter? What are we going to do about these tears? Well, I'm trying to do something myself, and thank you for, you're enduring it for just a minute. And just talking about it that much often will shift you, because you're not making it an uncomfortable situation. You're just making it something that happens to me, like a twitch.
Yeah. It's not happening to them. That's the thing. It's like,
but they think it's about them. Of course, everyone thinks it's about what you just said. Oh my God, I hurt your feelings, and then they feel bad, and there's a whole room full of it.
Exactly. And there's something else I think you can use that is integrated in our method, which is what I call, you made me think about it, Janet, because of you use the word shift. So I have something I call the shift from reaction to curiosity. And by kind of shifting from our own reaction to like, okay, I'm curious of what's happening with the person in front of me, you also take distance from your own triggers, your own emotions, and that helps us also in a way calm down. You need to be at least a little bit calm to do that, but by also trying to focus on the other person's experience, it helps even more calm down usually. That's what happened.
I remember when I was a buyer for almost 25 years, and I was in a management role as the buyer. I had an assistant, over the years, and I don't like confrontation. And so I did learn from one of my divisionals that when you have to reprimand or have a tough discussion, you need to keep your emotions neutral. So if the person you're conversing with is going up here and, don't go up with them. You need to stay neutral. And that was something that I felt was invaluable when they shared that, because it even relates to your own household when you're raising children, and your teenagers want something, or your toddler, or whatever the case may be. They might be throwing some type of tantrum, and then it upsets you, so you have to keep it neutral.
Yeah. And there's like a lot of books and methods that say that, but then I'm always like, but how do we keep it neutral?
Just having a plan, just thinking that, oh God, what do I do now? Oh yeah, maybe I should try this. And then it gives you, it's a little life raft, a little lifesaver,
Yeah.
Gives you somewhere to go when you're wondering what the heck you're supposed to do about that tantrum throwing child that may or may not have been yours,
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and again, that's why we have these practice session and our overcoming our trigger toolkits. Extremely important, because then we can be like, okay, I have a tool, I know a tool, emergency tool, let's use it. Because the thing about reactions and triggers is that we can't really control them. It's a biological message, survival message, sent to our brain, to basically to tell us that we are in danger. So when we react, actually what our brain is understanding is that danger, and that's the classic flight, freeze, fight answer, right? Response. But it's really what's happening. Our body thinks that we are in danger of death, and so we can't think normally. So that's why the practice sessions are important, but also having tools that we know, because we can cut the circuit. That we can do. We can stop it, but it takes a lot of effort, and for that we need to build new neural pathways, and that comes with practice, because the neural pathways are basically the kind of like the roads that our brain uses to send the message to our whole body to say, panic, there's danger here. someone is, and that can be something silly like, my teenager is driving me crazy, danger, right? And then the whole body, like it goes from one route. So by building multiple routes that don't send the same message, we can actually stop the process. But we need to learn about ourselves first, and we need to practice doing that. That's very important.
Go ahead, Aubrey.
Yeah, I was just curious if you had some resources or even, a work session that just helping others find the power in their voice. I deal with a lot of seniors that are in what I would consider awful situations, but perhaps they've been in it so long and they don't know what other options out there. Or they think, oh, this might be bad, but it could be worse. And so, particularly with living situations. And so just trying to have some tools to help them find the power in their voice to speak up and say, this isn't okay, or I want to do, I deserve better. I think that could be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, we have, so I have a handbook that goes through the method. And so you're not the first person asking me that, and I have people who came to my workshop with kind of similar requests, and so first they learn the method for themselves, and we have two level workshops. The first level is very much just learn the method, practice in a safe space, and the second level workshop kind of like guides you through the handbook. And once people understand deeply the method and have the handbook, and I'm always like, share the handbook with anyone you want, but they may need support understanding. And the handbook is just a guide to learn to use our voice in difficult conversations. And those difficult conversations, again, can be, I need to ask my boss for a raise, or I need to tell my landlord that this living situation is unsustainable, or anything that we find difficult using our voice for. So yes, you can use it that way. But I found that first you need to really understand the method, and if possible, apply it for yourself before supporting others doing that. And I'm saying that, I mean, the 5 habits, I'm trying to get better at them every day. And at the same time, I'm practicing it I'm practicing them with my students by helping them use their voice in a way that is empathetic, but impactful, very clear when they have needs, very clear when they have big feelings, knowing how to overcome those big feelings, and knowing how to tell someone else when something is wrong, or when they need something very clear. So, I mean, I am not, what I'm trying to say is that you don't need to be an expert in the 5 habits to do it, but you need to at least understand really a little bit more the method and practice. But yes, you can do that. Once you have it, just feel free to use it and spread it all over the world. I'm with you.
So what I would say, because we do need to wrap up now, are a couple of things. One, I think that Miriam and Aubrey should connect afterwards, because this could be something that you want to set up for the senior center. It could be that you're recording a Zoom session that will then be shared with all your members, etc. I'm sure there's many things you can all come up with together. Right now, to wrap up, I think it would be beneficial if Miriam said her phone number that she would like everyone to use, and her website address, because this recording can be shared by many of us. Like, I am going to send it to my book club friends. I can send it to the Compass and Clock members. I could, it'll be on YouTube, etc. But if somebody's just watching the recording, then they'll know how to contact you. So if you could just say that out loud, and then we'll say thank you and we'll end the recording.
Sure. So the website I showed it is speakingjustice.org. My phone number that you can call me, use anytime, is 361-265-8716. 361-265-8716. And yes, obviously, I'm working right now with the Boys and Girls Club and of the Olympic Peninsula, which I'm really excited about because this is really helping our community. So anything like that. And what we're doing is that I'm helping them help the students, help the kids, their members, use their voice. So I'm not in direct interaction with the students. I'm helping the staff, the board members, and admin all have a culture where people feel safe and have tools to use their voice in a way that helps them meet their needs and help them support children do that.
That's a great program to start working with right now. So thank you for reaching out to Boys and Girls Club and all the other organizations that you have or have not reached out to yet, and for presenting with us today. I'm going to say thank you. Goodbye. Do not hang up, everybody. You can stay on the Zoom, but the recording will end at this moment. Okay? Thank you so much, Miriam.
Thank you.